afternoon. The word at noon. First, the headlines. Federal government uncovers fake colleges of education in Nigeria. Rwandan woman faces 2 years in jail for indecent dressing. Chinese man who held bank staff hostage to access savings released. Now the news in full. Nigeria Minister of Education Mr. Adamu has said that the National Universities Commission (NUC) has identified approximately 70 illegal universities and about 125 illegal colleges of education operating in the country. The minister said this during the 47th session of the State House Ministerial Briefing in Abuja. He said the illegal institutions, which he described as degree mills, pose a great challenge to the ministry's efforts to ensure unfettered access to university education. The same thing, Mr. Adamu said the NUC also identified 125 illegal colleges of education, a figure which he described as alarming. In the last publication of the NUC regarding illegal universities and study centers in 2021, the Commission listed 58 illegal universities which it had closed down and a separate list of 8 institutions that were still under investigation on suspicious of being fake institutions. Rwandan authorities have arrested and taken to court a young woman over indecent dressing after a photo of her in a fishnet attire at a music concert appeared on social media. If convicted, 24-year-old faces 6 months to 2 years in prison. A judge at Kigali-based Kishukiro Primary Court declined to grant her bail, with the prosecution requesting that she be detained for 30 days as the investigation continues. Information has it that the case has caused public outrage on social media, with many condemning the government for violating women's rights, while others argued for more decent dressing in public. She risked 6 months to 2 years for expressing herself with a choice of clothing. Sierra Leone's President Mr. Julius Maada Bio says the nature of last week's protest against his government caught the police force by surprise. The protest resulted in 25 deaths, including 5 police officers. President Bio again blamed the opposition for trying to topple his government, an accusation the opposition All People's Congress Party has denied. He said a forensic and independent investigation was being conducted to unravel the truth. President Bio also defended a reshuffle in the military leadership following the protest and denied threats of a military takeover. This is the word at noon, coming to you from Osun State Broadcasting Corporation, Eliawiyo Kebale Osogbo. Now, our news message. Patience is a learned skill that you have to practice in parenting every day. Do what you think is best for your child. The long-time financial chief of Donald Trump's company, Mr. Alan Weisselberg, has pleaded guilty to fraud and tax evasion charges at a New York court. Mr. Weisselberg, who served as the Trump Organization's chief financial officer, had been charged with concealing more than $1.7 million in off-the-books income. He is expected to be sentenced to 5 months at the notorious Rikers Island jail and must pay back the whole money. Report has it that Mr. Trump has not been charged. In the meantime, the former president, who is not accused of wrongdoing, has described the Manhattan District Attorney's criminal investigation into his family's real estate company as a witch hunt. Deaths had been reported in France, Austria, and Italy as a result of powerful storms which battered areas of Central and Southern Europe, killing at least 13 people, including 3 children. The deaths, most from fallen trees were reported in Italy and Austria and on the French island of Corsica. Investigation revealed that heavy rain and winds wrecked campsites on the island, while in Venice, Italy, Missouri, blown off the bell tower of St. Mark's Basilica. The storms follow weeks of heatwave and drought across much of the continent. Information has it that a 13-year-old girl was killed by a fallen tree on a campsite, while a man died in a similar incident with an elderly woman who was also killed when a car was hit by the detached roof of a beach hut. Later, French Interior Minister Mr. Gerard Damanin, who has arrived in Corsica to inspect storm damage, reported a 6 deaths. A Lebanese judge has ordered the release of a man who took staff at a Beirut bank hostage last week in an attempt to access his frozen savings. Report says Mr. Bassam al-Sheikh Hussein surrendered after the federal bank agreed he could withdraw $35,000, which he said he needed to pay hospital bills. Judge Ghassan Khoury freed him because the bank dropped the charges it had pressed. He was hailed as a hero by people angry at the banking restrictions imposed in response to Lebanon's economic crisis. It will be recalled that withdrawals of hard currency had been limited for most people in the country since 2019, when the value of the Lebanese pound plummeted and inflation soared. However, report added that Mr. Hussein's case would be referred to an investigative judge, leaving open the possibility that he could still be prosecuted. And here again are the highlights of the world. Nigeria Minister of Education, Mr. Adamu, said that the National Universities Commission (NUC) has identified approximately 70 illegal universities and about 125 illegal colleges of education operating in the country. The authorities have arrested and taken to court a young woman over indecent dressing after a photo of her in a fishnet attire at a music concert appeared on social media. The Lebanese judge has ordered the release of a man who took staff at a Beirut bank hostage last week in an attempt to access his frozen savings. That was the Word at Noon, edited by Olushola Egbodofo and delivered by Nathaniel Oyugoki. News Talk by Adeboye Popola of our editorial desk enumerates the effects of the Lagos State and federal government's decisions to unlock commercial cyclists as part of the measure to strengthen the security of the country.
Decision of Lagos State government to completely outlaw the commercial cyclists in the state to improve the security and reduce human carnage on the roads. At the time, the Federal Security Council meeting raised questions on the continued retention of commercial cyclists calls for caution. The debate on whether or not to delete commercial cyclists from transport systems will not be adequate without going into issues necessitating the injection of the use of Okada into the country's transportation. Commercial cyclists, popularly known as Okada traces route to Okada town in Edo State, Nigeria, where motorcycle first became a supplementary means of transportation following the establishment of Igbinedion University in 1999. At that time, commercial cyclists were fully embraced by students whose